question on something prior.
No, not allowed to ask questions. I mean, we learned it. If you don't know it by now, Kalman, it's for following. Okay. What?
No, I'm losing it. It's more than yesterday's.
I will have a question again.
On the end?
Okay, let's go over it. I want to
Yeah,
hear your
well,
explanation. It's not a question, I'm just another opinion, like another way of.
Just want to say something like this, like Shalem, Yishalem, Hamaba, Et Hamaba. It's like saying he will pay.
That's the pasuk. The pasuk says that. That's the way the Torah talks. Shalem Yishalem. A language of emphasis. He shall pay, he shall surely pay.
You need to pay
Very
tax.
common. It's very common in Hebrew and in Aramaic b'chlal. But that's the pasuk. The reason it's common is because that's how the pasuk talks. Menachem, what are you going to spill today?
I'll leave him alone. I distracted him.
Well, you should see my Maimar Chassidus. What were we learning? Zeis Chukas, right? I think it was Zeis Chukas. A whole cup of coffee over the whole book. I mean, mamish, a full cup of coffee. Such a waste of a cup of coffee. Okay. We're in the middle of the piece where we're showing that our Mishnah could have been written by Rabbi Meir, because even though Rabbi Meir says that minimal guarding is not enough by Keren, Rabbi Meir could certainly hold that minimal guarding is enough by Shein and Regel, which seems to be the case that our Mishnah is talking about. Why? Well, because we brought Rabbi Elazar, or it might be it's a Baraisa, that shows that the four categories of Nezik, of Nezikin, of damages, Bor, Eish, Shein, and Regel, all of them have psukim in the Torah, which limit the need for shmirah. In other words, minimal shmir is all right for those categories of Nezik. Yeah? Okay. So we saw the first two. We saw Bor and Eish. Ad the Ovid ke'ein mavir, until he becomes someone who, it's as if he actually actively set fire to the second field. Right? That means he has to be completely negligent relative to the fire he started in the first field, so that anybody standing there will go, what are you doing? You're going to burn down. No, I mean, the Gemara doesn't say this, but it's as if anybody standing there, what are you doing? You're going to burn down that field. You just lit that field on fire by lighting your field on fire. Okay. If it's any less than that, minimal guarding, we don't know what minimal guarding is relative to Aish, but we came up with certain ideas in terms of, making some sort of fire break or some water in between or whatever it happens to be. All right? Okay. And by bore, we said, well, all he has to do is cover it. Okay, so now what about Shein and Regel? So we assume we're going to say similar things about Shein and Regel. And we have to find our psukim and mishpatim before we even start, so we don't have to worry about it once we get there. And that's going to be in Perik Chaf base now. Okay. And what are we looking for in Shein and Regel? In these psukim, we know what our conclusion is going to be. We have to figure out how we get to that conclusion by virtue of the drasha, but we know what the conclusion is. What is the conclusion going to be?
Minimal guarding
Minimal guarding by Shein and Regel. That's what we're learning, right? Okay, so that helps a lot when I know where I'm going, even though I don't know how I'm going to get there.
How long do you have to do this for?
What? He's gone 1 week a month. It's not on. At least it says there's no one on. It's very interesting. When he goes to Carolina to work 1 week a month, he keeps Israel hours. He wakes up at 12 o'clock. Goes to sleep at like 5 in the afternoon and wakes up at 12 o'clock. Rather than deal with jet lag both ways.
idea.
Well, he does it every month, right? So he just doesn't want to spend half his life jet lagged.
Yeah.
So his watch, he doesn't change his watch. So I guess whatever work he's doing, he can do, within the context of those hours.
We're looking for which quote here?
Well, we haven't read on the Gemara yet, so we'll find it. We're gonna find a quote on Shmeis Chaf Beis Pasuk Hey. That's the first one. But we haven't read it in the Gemara yet. Okay, so we are looking for sources that tell us that Shane and Regal require minimal guarding. Now that's really what we're looking for in our Gemara, but we're not doing that now because we're just learning this piece out of our Gemara. When we put it back, we're going to apply the parts of Shane and Regal to our sugya. Right, but we know what we're looking for because at the beginning of this statement of Rabbi Elazar or this Baraisa, whatever it happens to be, we said the Gemara limits the need for guarding relative to these four categories of nezik, of damages. Okay. Shame, t'chsiv, uvir bisdei acher. Okay, what does that mean, uvir bisdei acher? We'll look up the pasuk. What does it mean?
He's going to a vineyard.
Well, it's literally what does it mean? Uvir bisdei acher.
An act.
That's
Actively.
he threw the sheep into the other.
Right, that he's grazing in someone else's field, right? In the field of another, right? So let's look at the pasuk. Right? Ki yaver ish soda. Now, yaver, beer, it meant fire in what we just learned. But it doesn't mean fire, it means to eat, consume. If a person consumes another person's soda or kerem, field or vineyard, v'shilech es bi'iroi, and he sent, it's like, it's really hard to read. I mean, I understand we have an English translation, but it'd be nice to figure out what it really means, right? He sent bi'iroi, now bi'iroi means his bi'ir, his consumer. He sent out the thing that he has that eats. Okay, so simple shot. What does that mean? What did he send? He sent his animal, right? Sheep, cow, I don't know what it was, but he sent an animal out. His, hu bier bistei acher. Now these are the words from our pasuk. And what did he do?
He consumed the other.
He consumed in the other field. Okay. So my cow, my sheep, my goat went into your field and started eating things in your field. I assume things of value, right? Okay, that's the case in the pasuk. Meit of sadeu, meit of karma yishalem. What's the halacha? What's the halacha in the pasuk? What does it say?
If you send them, you need to pay.
That's the case. And what's the halacha? What does it say?
You need to pay.
Okay, Seder, but what does it say? It says more than just Yushalem. It says all sorts of other stuff. What does it say? Meit of Sadeo, meit of Karma Yishalem. That what? What does that mean?
To make him whole, pay restitution.
Seder, but what do those words mean? All we have to do is read the words. First read the words. Before you explain them, read them. What do they say?
It's chayav.
What does it say? It doesn't say the word chayav there. There's 5 words, and everybody's giving me 1 word. He has to pay. But there's 5 words there. So what are the 5 words? Meit of sadeu v'meit of karma. What do those words mean? God, these are God's words, right? We're not skipping over God's words. Sorry, not happening. You want to skip over what I say? No problem. I'll leave.
Best.
What?
He should pay from his best.
The best of his field and the best of his vineyard, he should pay. Isn't that what it says? You have to know pshat in the pasuk, just simple pshat in the words of the pasuk, guys. You can't skip over the words of the pasuk. You have to translate the words in the pasuk. The best of his field, the best of his vineyard, he should pay. Okay, what does that mean? Is it clear what that means?
I think,
Yeah, what does it mean?
It doesn't matter what damages the animal did. Like maybe it was the worst part of the other's field.
Yeah.
But it still has value. You need to pay from yours, from your.
Yeah, okay, could be. So in other words, you are defining his as the owner of the field. The best of the owner of the field's field and the best of the owner of the vineyard's vineyard, he pays. In other words, if I have a crash into your Volkswagen, I pay as if it's a Lexus. Does that make sense? Yeah? Does that make sense?
No.
Is there anything we've ever learned? What? I mean, sometimes we know we pay less than we've damaged. I've never heard of paying more than I damaged. Right? I ate, I don't know, whatever, thorns, and I pay grapes. I doubt it. Okay, but it is an interesting. I mean, but what Tzvi is saying is explaining a problem in the end of the verse. When you look up a pasuk, you have to say pshat in the pasuk. You can't just read the pasuk like, okay, I want these 3 words and that's it. You have to say pshat in the pasuk. God said this, so He meant something, right? So the best of his field, whose field? So there's 2 choices: either the damager or the damagee. So the way Tzvi explained it was the damagee, the best of the damagee's field. That's what he pays. Okay, in a simple state, that's hard to imagine. I understand, why do I have to pay for the best? I didn't necessarily damage the best. Now, how you might say that the pshat is, if the way you want to read it, the way Tzvi read it, is if we're not clear what exactly he damaged, so he pays the best of the field. Maybe, I don't know. Or whose field might it be talking about? The damager. So how does that work?
Is to make full restitution,
Mm-hmm.
and that means it means having to give the best of his field to.
Oh, in
cover
fact,
full
if he doesn't have money, what'll he pay with?
Best of his produce.
Land. Oh, well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't say the best of his produce. It says the best of his field. He'll probably pay with land, right? Bottom line, when you take money away from someone who doesn't have money, what do you usually get? Assets. What's their most important asset? Land, right? I mean, you're going to probably get his house. Okay. Now, God forbid someone has to lose their house, but I mean, he's going to lose. People lose houses, right? Okay. So it might be that the end of the pasuk means that if Shimon the damager doesn't have cash to pay Ruvain, then he has to pay from his field, and then there's an interesting question. Well, okay, he has to pay him $1,000 worth of damage. Does he give him $1,000 of the worst part of his field, which is, let's say, 10 acres of the junky stuff over in the left? Or does he give him $1,000 worth of the best of his field, which is half an acre of the most fertile ground he's got? So if that's pshat in this, then he's giving him half an acre of the most fertile ground he's got. That's what he's got to give him. They're both worth $1,000. He's got to give him $1,000. But what do I want? A bunch of rocks worth $1,000, or do I want some fertile ground? I'd rather have the fertile ground. Now it's interesting because there are 3 different categories of how you pay when you're paying with land: worst land, medium land, best land. Relative to damages, we actually do pay with the best land. Okay, so that might be what this is telling us. But the actual pshat of it isn't what I find so interesting, or what do I want you guys to do? Read the words and take the words seriously and try to figure out what they mean. Right? You just read some words in the Torah and you guys just completely ignored the words as if they weren't there, had nothing to do with them, couldn't translate them, absolutely ignored their existence. Why? Because the Gemara quoted 3 other words in the pasuk. The Gemara is quoting a pasuk. So what does the pasuk mean? Anytime you learn a pasuk, anytime you run into a pasuk, first of all, you have to look up the pasuk. Second of all, say pshat in the pasuk, simple pshat in the pasuk. You don't have to look up Rashi and Ramban and learn it for 2 hours, but just try to develop some sort of simple understanding of the pasuk. And if there's a clear problem in simple understanding of the problem, at least be aware in the pasuk. At least be aware of that. Say, look, I don't understand what the end means because it seems somewhat ambivalent here. What these words mean, I'm not sure. Okay, but at least I read them and I translate them and I have an idea that there's a problem here. Okay, and the problem in those last words is whose field, whose vineyard. So Tzvi explained it based on a particular answer to that question, which is fine. Right? Whether that's the right explanation or not, that's not our issue, right? But it's at least explaining it one way or the other. Right? So either you can say the field is Ruvain the damaged, or Shimon the damager. It's not clear. Okay. Now, which words does our Gemara find most interesting? There's 3 words in this pasuk that our Gemara finds very interesting. Right? Which are they? Quotes them. It's not hard to answer my question. All you have to do is read.
Yishlach ad Davi.
That's not the pasuk. That's the Gemara. What words in the pasuk does the Gemara find interesting? The Gemara quotes 3 words from this pasuk. All I have to do is read our Gemara and find. Stay acher bediuk, and he consumed in the field of another. Now, those words in this pasuk do seem somewhat superfluous, right? True? Why? What have we already said twice? What verb have we used twice already in this verse? Bei Zayin Reish, that someone is consuming in the field of another. And then after it says, someone who consumes in his friend's field, and he sends his consuming animal over there, and he consumes in that field. Okay, I got it. Ubir bistei acher. Okay, what does our Gemara say about that? Our Gemara learns something from those extra words. Ad do'avid ke'ein ubir. That what? Same drasha as we learned relative to Aish. That what? Until?
You're responsible until you are someone who started and send it and
it's as if he, what's beer? Beer isn't sending. What's beer? Consuming. Right? When are you obligated? You're not obligated until when? It's as if it is consumed. So then.
But it's like you acted in a way.
It's as if you actively fed your animal in that field, as opposed to what probably happened.
He escaped an age.
Hey, he just walked over there and started eating. That's the regular case of shame, right? Okay, no. Well, yes. When are you obligated? And this is explain. What information are we trying to learn about shame? Halachically?
What is the minimal guarding?
Minimal guarding, right? And what does this say? When are you obligated in shame? Only when it's as if it's as if you mamish fed your animal from his field, meaning you didn't take him out. It's as if you almost put him there, as opposed to didn't stop him from going there. Right? Okay. But if you did anything to stop him, anything minimal to stop him from going there, then what? Then you're butter. You're butter. Okay. Same drasha. Right? That's why we stopped after 2 yesterday. I wanted to see those 2, so you'll see the second one. The third one is exactly the same as the second one. I'm not obligated until it's as if I actually set fire to your field. It's as if I actually set fire to your field. I'm not obligated until it's as if I actually fed my animal in your field. I didn't feed my animal in your field. My animal wandered over there, but it's Seder. But I was so negligent that it's as if I sent him over there. Go over there, little Bessie. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. No. Right? Okay. And if I do anything to stop Bessie from wandering over there, then I'm okay. What does that mean? Close the gate. You don't need a padlock. Okay. Regel. Dichsiv. Same pasuk. What? Regel, dichsiv. V'shilach. Yeah? Ad do'avid ke'ein v'shilach. Right? It's our pasuk. V'shilach es be'iroi. What does v'shilach es be'iroi mean?
Like he
sent. Now, it doesn't, we know the pshat isn't that he mamish sent it, right? That it's just that it went and did this damage. Okay? But why does it use the word v'shilach, according to our Gemara? To teach me what?
That if he actively sends the animal in that way, then you are chayav.
Okay, but he didn't. It's not that he actively sent. It's as if he actively sent. That what?
Yeah, it says if he did because he didn't play.
Because you didn't guard it at all. B'diuk. Meaning even minimal guarding, or I wouldn't say about you that you sent the animal there. The animal went there, Beseder, but you didn't send him. So then you're potter. But if it's as if you sent him, what does that mean? It's as if you sent him? You left the door open. You didn't do anything. Right? So it's as if you just told him, go into that field and eat. Okay, that's when you're chayav. But only then. If you did anything minimal to stop your animal from going into that field, you'll be potter. Right? And that's what we're trying to learn. Yeah? Now this Vitanya that comes next, I mean, it's obviously not part of the actual quote that we just finished quoting, right? Because we just finished quoting either Rabbi Elazar or a Baraisa. It's unclear. The Gemara told us either Rabbi Elazar said this or the Baraisa. Now clearly the end of that quote is now. Now the Gemara continues and brings a Baraisa. So is that Baraisa a continuation of the same function? Or is that Baraisa just some sort of statement in the middle of nowhere telling me more information about Shane and Regal?
More information?
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, you can learn it both ways, the Baraisa. But bottom line, let's just read the Baraisa as a continuation. V'tanya, because there's a vav. V'tanya, and it also learns in a Baraisa. Right? Okay, now, but at this point, we've learned something very basic, and we can already put it back in the Gemara. Right? What did we learn from this statement of Rabbi Elazar or this Baraisa that we just quoted? What information did we learn that we were interested in?
The minimum guarding? Minimum guarding?
Minimal guarding relative to what?
What? Shane and Regal.
Shane and Regal, b'diuk. Right? That's all. We were not interested in Bor and Aish. We couldn't care less about Bor and Aish. We're not learning about Bor and Aish. It just happens to be in the Baraisa, so we or the statement, whatever. So we learned about Bor and Aish also. It's not a problem. We learned some Torah. That's mutter. Okay, but Bor and Aish was not relevant to us. It wasn't relevant to our sugya. Okay, but it's part of the statement. Now take that statement off this page and put it back up to this page. And why did we have this statement? We had this statement to teach that Shane and Regal require only minimal guarding. So who can also hold like that? Rabbi Meir, beautiful. Therefore, what could Rabbi Meir have done?
Be the author.
Could be author of our mission. Beautiful. We just finished saying that, right?
Can I just
Yeah.
do something? Because we broke up the Braita where we just after the question that who's the author of minimal guarding is sufficient regarding to Muad. And in that Braita, Rabbi Yehuda has an opinion that doesn't contradict the Mishnah origin statement. And if I know correctly,
Right, that's what we
we
said. We
never
think it's Rabbi Yehuda.
yeah.
Whoever brought that thought it was Rabbi Yehuda.
But that's why it can't be Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah, it still can be Rabbi
because
Yehuda,
it's not
100%.
adding any new information. So why would it written down again? Why would be Rabbi Yehuda opinion be twice written down? Written down twice.
Well, in a different case.
It's the same case.
No, it isn't. What's the case written over there?
Is it Rabbi Yehuda?
Yeah, and what case is he
If
talking
an
about?
animal is minimal guarding, so it's called that
What
order.
case? What case is he talking about? Over there. What case is he talking about?
Karen?
Karen. Oh, what's he talking about over here? If it's Rabbi Yehuda, what's he talking about over here? Shane and Regal. It's not so clear that Rabbi Yehuda necessarily extrapolates from Karen to Shane and Regal, but that's
Okay,
exactly
but
what
if
the
Rabbi
Gemara says.
Yehuda with a more stringent thing is more lenient, then with the lenient to...
Well, again, we don't know whether that drusha of Rabbi Yehuda necessarily applies to this case. It might not. Rabbi Yehuda has a drusha in Karen, based on the words Lo Yishmerenu Bailov. Okay, so Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds. This is what our original answer was. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds. In the case of Nezik, minimal guarding is fine. Okay, so that's what our Mishnah is telling us relative to Shane and Regal. You'll ask, well, don't I already know that? I mean, he told me that. Well, no, I would have to know that Rabbi Yehuda also holds that in the case of Shane and Regal, as opposed to just in Karen. Because in all fairness, the reason he holds it in Karen is because he has a drusha. I don't know whether that drusha necessarily applies to Shane and Regal. Okay, so he teaches me the laws of Shane and Regal. But this will happen all the time, that we'll ask, who wrote this Mishnah? Well, this Mishnah is in line with this person's opinion. Okay, but his opinion was relative to something else, but okay, but that opinion will express itself in this realm also, but I mean, I'm gonna write laws of all sorts of different, I'll write traffic laws relative to running red lights and making illegal turns.
It's not
I'll say, well, he's the guy who's lenient about red lights, so why do I even have to tell me that, why does he have to tell me anything about making illegal red turns, illegal left turn? Well, it's a different halacha, right? So I'd want to know, who wrote this halacha? Who wrote this law about being lenient about illegal left turns?
It's not
Must
fair.
be Rabbi Yehuda.
It's not a fair assumption to think that if it's Rabbi Yehuda is more lenient with a more aggressive X than with a less aggressive X.
I still want to learn Hilchos Shein and Regel, don't I? And that's it. I'm only going to talk about, there's 4 categories of damages. I'm only going to talk about one and expect everybody to extrapolate everything relative to all of the others in all cases. Oh, I'm going to teach you Hilchos Shein and Hilchos Regel, right? Might there be certain information that I could theoretically have extrapolated if I had really thought about it? Okay, maybe, right? But maybe not, right? I mean, certainly in this simple information here, let's say no one else holds. Maybe everybody else holds no, he's chayiv. So then why did I write this Mishnah? To tell me that there's a position that says he's patur. Who is that? Rabbi Yehuda. No? I mean, the Chiddush isn't necessarily who wrote it, the Chiddush is the information itself. I don't know this about Shein and Regel until you tell me. I don't know that Shein and Regel, that in this case in Shein and Regel he'd be patur. How would I know that? Right? It happens to be that once we learn it, we say, well, who wrote that? Because there is a big machlekes about the level of guarding that's necessary for certain things. So actually, who wrote this Mishnah? Oh, it must have been Rabbi Yehuda, because he seems to be the lenient one relative to the obligations of guarding in a way.
I felt that we had some similarity with the Torah when we were learning Pesach, and we asked the same thing. Who wrote the?
We ask it all the time. Because if there's a machlekes tanoim relative to a particular issue, we'll often ask, oh, okay, so who wrote this Mishnah? Right? Who? Now, but again, the information in the Mishnah is important to me regardless of who wrote it. I do want to know that in the case of Shein and Regel, that if I locked up the animal minimally, I'm patur. How would I know that? Because there happens to be a drasha of Rabbi Yehuda in the case of Karen, who says I paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe I paskin like Rabbi Meir. I mean, how would I know? Right? And then the second thing the Gemara says, well, actually, you could even say it's Rabbi Meir. Because it might be that Rabbi Meir is only strict over there. In the case of, when is Rabbi Meir strict? Which case? Karen. Right? Whereas in the case of Shein and Regel, he's lenient. Why? Because there's all these drushas about Shein and Regel, and these drushas produce leniencies. Maybe he holds by those drushas. Oh, okay. And you know what you could even also say? I mean, at this point, it's certainly reasonable to say, Rabbi Yehuda might disagree with this Mishnah. Why? What could you say in the position of Rabbi Yehuda? When is it that Rabbi Yehuda says that minimal guarding is okay? In the case of
Tom.
no, Rabbi Yehuda. In the case of a muad, in what category? Why? Because there's a verse. Because there's a verse. Because there's a verse there. Does he necessarily extrapolate from that to Shein and Regel? No. Does he necessarily hold by these drushas that we just learned? Could he not hold by these drushas? No, why not? So therefore, Rabbi Meir could say in the case of Shein and Regel, what? Patur, minimal guarding. And Rabbi Yehuda could say in the case of Shein and Regel, what? Chayiv, maximal guarding. Because the only time you need minimal guarding is in Karen. Why? Because there's a verse. Yalei Yishmerenu Bailav, V'shamur hu zeh. That's what he said, right? It says in the verse, he didn't guard it. But this is guarded. Minimally, but it's guarded. Can't say it's not guarded. Okay, so he's patur. That was the Chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda in the case of Karen. A muad. But forget about Tom, because we're only talking about muad. Okay, so what does Rabbi Yehuda think about Shein and Regel? I don't know. Our Gemara posits that Rabbi Yehuda holds the same, the first position in our Gemara. Oh, just like he's lenient over there, so he'll be the one who's lenient over here. Because at this point, what don't we know? We don't know that there's any drushas about Shane and Regal. All we know is that there's a drusha about Karen, and maybe if someone's going to be lenient, so who might that someone be? Well, Rabbi Yehuda's lenient over there, so he might be lenient over here also, right? Rabbi Meir is strict over there, so I assume he's strict over here. But I don't have much to go on, but I do have something to go on. What do I know? Is there someone who's lenient in the case of Shane and Regal? Isn't our Mishnah lenient in the case of Shane and Regal? Isn't it?
I don't know.
Wait. Is our Mishnah lenient in the case of Shane and Regal or not?
Yes.
Yes. What does our Mishnah say? In the case of Shane and Regal, what's demanded from you? Minimal guarding. Everybody agrees with that. That's not up for scrap. Our Gemara, everybody agrees with that in our Gemara. We didn't think of that when we were learning the Mishnah, but as soon as the Gemara starts talking about the Mishnah, the first question, Rav Mani Bar Papa, who holds that minimal guarding is enough in Shane and Regal? Who is that? Muad. In other words, that's what our Mishnah is. So who did we find? We found someone who's lenient in the case of a muad, that minimal guarding is okay. And who was that someone? Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, Rav Mani Bar Patra said, since I don't know about anybody else who's lenient in the case of muad, who do I assume wrote my Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda. Does he have to tell me this? Of course he has to tell me this, because I wouldn't know this halacha if the Mishnah didn't tell it to me. I wouldn't know what halacha is in Shane and Regal if the Mishnah didn't tell it to me. Now that the Mishnah tells it to me, I ask, that's really interesting. We're lenient in Shane and Regal. I wonder who that is. Not Rabbi Meir. Right? Certainly not Rabbi Eliezer. Right? It's Rabbi Yehuda, don't worry. Good. That's the first chunk of the Gemara. Then the Gemara says, no, you don't have to say that. You could even say that our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Right? Could it also be Rabbi Yehuda at this point? It could also be Rabbi Yehuda, but it could also be Rabbi Meir. In other words, there's not necessarily a disagreement between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah. How could I possibly say that Rabbi Meir wrote our Mishnah? Because isn't Rabbi Meir the one who's strict in the case of Muad? What do we say? What do we distinguish between case A and case B and C? What's case A? When is he strict? Karen. Case halacha. It's all case halacha. In Karen he's strict, but in Shane and Regal he's lenient. Why? All these drushes, right? He holds by all these drushes. What doesn't he hold by in Karen? Rabbi Meir. The drusha of Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold by that drusha, clearly, right? But he could hold by all these drushes. And therefore Rabbi Meir could write this Mishnah also. Okay. Now, again, I just said it already, but I'll say it, we'll go a step further. It might even be that Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with this Mishnah. Because, again, when is it that Rabbi Yehuda says that we're lenient in a muad? Only in what case? Because there's a pasuk. Does he hold by these drushes? Not necessarily. Therefore, what would he say in Shane and Regal? Muad, maximum. Could Rabbi Yehuda say that? Sure, why not? Right? Could flip the whole thing upside down.
When can we use the lenient and stringent method? Like we say that.
Kal v'chomer?
Yeah.
Different cases. Shane and Regal, like that, we'll just throw the completely the only reason Karen is lenient is because there's a pasuk. So if there's no pasuk, then there's nothing to. There's no kal v'chomer here. Which is more strict, Karen or Shane? You want me to say as follows: since Karen is the most strict, and in Karen we're lenient, so Shane, which is less strict, all the more so would be lenient. Who says Shane is more lenient than, or more? Who says Shane is any different than Karen, more or less lenient or strict? I have no idea. I can't make a kal v'chomer between two things that are completely different. Fine.
And why he cannot hold by the apostles that was brought up?
Which pasuk?
the about shining regular.
I do. Rabbi Meir does, at least at this point, right? What's the problem? Does Rabbi Yehuda have to? No.
How we not Rabbi Meir holds by this?
Because that's what the Gemara just taught us.
Oh.
Right? The Gemara just taught us that Rabbi Meir could hold. It doesn't say he does. It says a filu temi. You could also say this is Rabbi Meir because he could hold by all of this. Does he? I don't know. But could he have written this Mishnah? Absolutely. Here, there's a whole way in which we could show that Rabbi Meir wrote this Mishnah. Right? Did I prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did? No. That's what Rabbi comes to try to do. Rabbi wants to prove to us that it's Rabbi Meir. Not only could it be, it is. He fails, but it is. That's what he wants to say. And we'll see why. Okay. Okay, or how. But that's where we are now. The Gemara at Rami will start for ignore the first few lines, right? Rami Bar Patish. Rami Bar Patish says, who says such a thing that we're lenient in Muad? When I say lenient, we mean we need minimal guarding, but lenient's easier than saying we need minimal guarding. Okay? Who says we're lenient? Rabbi Yehuda. Well, we see he's lenient over there by Muad because of his drasha, so he could be lenient here. Okay. That's a reasonable answer. Then the Gemara says, did he actually even say it's Rabbi Meir, who's machmer over there? He's strict over there. He could be lenient over here. Why? Well, because of all these drushes of Rabbi Elazar or the Bryce. Could be lenient. Why? Because there's drushes that say in the case of Shane and Rego, we limit the need for guarding. This drusha, where does it not say we do that? The drusha of Rabbi Elazar and or the Bryce, whichever it is. Which case of Nezik does it not include in the list that requires minimal guarding? Easy question. Karen. Doesn't say anything about Karen, right? Because whoever wrote this brisa or Rabbi Elazar, do they think that in Karen minimal guarding is okay? Probably not, because they didn't include it in their list, right? They said Aish, Bor, Shane, and Rego. What's conspicuous in its absence? Karen, it's not there. Why? Because the halacha doesn't apply. There's no such drasha. Right? True? Whoever said this? Did we just quote it? Evidently, he doesn't think it applies to Karen. Is that the only way of looking at the world? No, you and I know it's not. We know there's a Rabbi Yehuda who looks at the world differently. Why? Another drasha. But evidently, who's ever saying this drasha doesn't hold by that drasha. Or else you would assume they'd bring it. Right? And what would they say? Nezik requires minimal guarding. Like it says in Karen, like it says in Aish, like it says in Bor, like it says in Shane, like it says in Regal. Put them all there. Bring 4 and leave 1 out? I guess I'm leaving 1 out for a reason. Right? Right? Okay. Manyen. That's how this book works. Okay, now let's just see this Vitanya, because the Vitanya, we know what it's going to do. Because we learned it. Vitanya, V'shilech zeha rego, that the word V'shilech, what does it apply to?
The foot in the image?
Rego, right? The Nezik of Rego. And where did we see the word V'shilech? In the pasuk, in the same pasuk, V'shilech is bear, right? That means Rego. That's, in other words, sending it is not sending it to eat, it's sending it to trample. He's not sending it to trample, but it's as if he sent it to trample, right? That's what we learned. V'shilech zeha regel, that refers to regel. How do we know? V'chein hu aimer, similarly it says, a pasuk in Yeshayahu, Mishalchei regel hashor v'chamor. What does it say? The ones who send the feet of the shor and the chamor. So clearly, what 2 things have we just connected in that pasuk in Yeshayahu?
Send and feet.
Send and feet. No, that's all we had to do. Send and feet. The word v'shilach relates to feet. How do you know? Well, look at the pasuk. Mishalchei regel. Okay. So let's look up the pasuk, because we should look up every pasuk we see. Yeshayahu Lamed. Which pasuk? It's Yeshayahu. Sorry, Lamed base. Which pasuk? 32:20, right? It was a good year, 32:20. Okay, Yeshayahu Lamed base, and the reason we're looking it up is so everybody will get practice looking it up. It's the last pasuk in the chapter. Right? Where are you going to find Yeshayahu?
After
You open up the middle of the book and you start looking. Middle of the book. You're still in the Torah there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're way
After the
past the
second
Torah,
page.
right? We say, you got to know this stuff. Way past the Torah. Yeshayahu is a prophet.
Yeah.
What comes right after the Torah? Yoshua.
Mm.
Joshua, right? Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, right? Okay, when did that happen? Right after we got in Eretz Israel. When was that? Right after Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. So that happens right after the end of the Torah. Then there's the time of the Shoftim. Then there's Shmuel, which is David HaMelech, and Malachim, all the kings. And after that, there's the book of Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu Lamed Base 32, chapter 32, Pasuk Chaf 20. Okay. What does it say? It's not going to say anything out of the ordinary. Right? Ashreichem zorei al kol mayim. Happy are you, the ones who plant on all water. Right? This is a nice part of Yeshayahu, talking about nice things. Mishalchei regel ashor v'chamar. The ones who send out the feet of the shore and the chamar. Right? Okay. The word v'shilach and the word regel. That's all I wanted. And we got it. Okay, so that pasuk tells me that when the Torah uses the word v'shilach relative to damages, what category of damages am I talking about? Regel. Right? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. The next one's really hard. V'cheinu omer, sorry. Ubier ze'ashen. And the word bier refers to the animal eating, not trampling. V'cheinu omer, kasher yiv'ar hagalau ad tumoy. Okay, look up Malachim Aleph Daled, Pasuk 10. Malachim, right before Yeshayahu. Just go backwards from Yeshayahu. You're going to run into Malachim Base, and then you're going to run into Malachim Aleph. Right? And Malachim Aleph, Perek Yud Daled, chapter 14, Pasuk 10. Very, very hard to figure out how this pasuk teaches us what it is we want to learn. And I hope you noticed that. Right, what happens? So, Yerovam, who's a big Russian, is being cut off. And David HaMelech says, the end of the pasuk, Bichrasi li'Yerovam, I'll cut him off. Mashtin Bakir Atzer Vazu B'Yisrael. Ubi'arti, our word, bi'arti. Acharei Beis Yeravam. And I will, like in this context, it sort of means I'll empty out his house, I'll consume his house, I'll take away his house. Kasher Yiva'er HaGalal, just like the Galal is consumed ad tumay, until it's gone. Now, what's a galal generally? And the translation in English is what it usually is. What's galal? What does the translation say? Dung. Galal is usually what's called in America cow pie. Right? Cows drop these little pies in the middle of the field. That's what we used to call them growing up in Canada, where there were a lot of cow pies. Cow pies, that's what they were. That's called a galal. What in the world? How did that? What are we trying to learn from this pasuk?
Hungary we call the horse dung.
You're telling me how, and I don't understand it. I asked the question. What are we trying to learn from this pasuk? What information?
We're trying to learn about Shane.
That Shane is beer,
Yeah.
and we ended up talking about dung,
Yeah.
which isn't too close to the teeth.
Comes from somewhere.
Oh, you're fair. Where does it come from? What do you do in order to
You
produce dung
You
relative to the idea of beer?
You eat.
That's how some of the Mepharshim explain it. By virtue of what you do by chewing, you produce the dung that then is consumed. Later. In the pasuk, we're talking about consuming the dung, but where does the dung come from? I would never say this pshat in that pasuk over there, right? Except what? You and I, what are we trying to figure out?
What they're saying.
What the connection is between the word bier and teeth, and we're talking about dung. Right? So what Ian said is perfectly reasonable. Wait a minute. The dung comes from somewhere, and where does it come from? What the teeth did. Who biered before there's dung? The teeth. This is like a really subtle reference, but okay. Kasher yiver hagalal ad tumay. Wild. Right? Very, very hard to see the connection. I would never see the connection if it wasn't that the Gemara sort of forces me to see a connection, because the Gemara says that I'm learning that shilach is shein from this pasuk. So I see the word, that bier is shein because of this pasuk. I see the word bier, it's here. I just don't see the word shein. But okay, I guess somehow shein is in here. So I think what Ian said is probably true, right? How did you get to the dung? Well, you chewed it up, you ate it, and that's shein. Okay.
Does it also reference the following pasuk?
There are people who say that. It's interesting. Keep reading, right? Because it talks about eating, right? Hameis yirabim be'ir yeichlu aklavim, hameis besada yeichlu oif, right? It talks about eating up. Okay, but I'm not so interested. I'm not so interested in the word eating. I'm interested in the word beer. But I hear you, right? Okay. But the better pshat seems to be the first pshat you said. And kolakavad, it has to get there somewhere. How does it get to the dung? Through the teeth. And when it comes to cows, okay, I understand. We're saying that shein and regel is sheep. Well, it's not only sheep. There's shein and regel in cows. And sheep also, I think, right? Don't sheep chew their cud? Right? They have to chew their cud. Right? That's why they're kosher. Right? So that means they chew it up a lot with their teeth. More than once. Which is really gross, but that's the way it goes. Okay. Well done, Ian. Right? Did anybody else notice that was rather subtle and hard to figure out, or did you just sort of read it and say, okay, that's it, and go further? If you did that, don't do that. Right? No, not to understand it is okay as long as I understand what it is that I don't understand. Right? To just read it and say I don't get it, well, that's not good enough. I have to read, wait, I understand. I have to ask myself, what am I trying to learn from here? I'm trying to learn that the word beer relates to teeth. I don't see any teeth in this pasuk. Okay, if I get to that point and I understand that I'm stuck, fine. But at least I learned something. At least I understand what I'm learning, what I'm looking for. I just don't get how I did it. Okay, that's fine. That's okay. But if I just read it and don't get it and go further, so then that's not learning. That's not anything. That doesn't mean anything. We can't do that. We have to take this book seriously. And Ian obviously thought about it, and Baruch Hashem came up with a pretty good pshat, and that's the pshat that some Rishonim say. Only no one would say that pshat in this pasuk if it weren't for the fact that our Gemara is forcing us to say that pshat in the pasuk. But okay, the Gemara is telling us that somehow this has to do with shame. I wouldn't see it without our Gemara. Now, something you might want to do in general is look up Meforshim on the pasuk. Look up the commentaries on the pasuk. When you look up a pasuk and you don't get it, so you look up the commentaries on the pasuk and see what they have to say. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more. Go look them up, see what they have to say. Ian might be happy to see what they have to say. Okay. Kamma. Now, the word Kamma and then Dalet in the Gemara works. Remember that from the
The
summer?
reason of something is.
Right? Okay. I'm going to tell you the wrong way to read this, but that's really not a good educational method. But the reason I'm doing it is because that's what Svi did, and that's what everybody does. Okay, so I'm not picking on Svi. Everybody reads this the same way at first, and it never makes sense until you learn how to read it right. The wrong way, what probably most people do is, I'm just going to read it and translate it. Right? Taima da Ovid ke'ein v'shilach. The reason that he did that like shilach, ubir and beer, ha loy Ovid. Loy. Okay, what I just read makes no sense whatsoever. Right? Because I'm not explaining the reason that he did what he did. Right? How do you read a time? I'm sorry, can we turn on the light, please, so that people can see what I'm writing? Well, maybe we've got some candles. It's South Africa, we're getting candles, not electricity here.
No, just so advanced technology.
Light, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh. That was nice. Okay. Time did. I'm separating those. Okay? Because it's not the reason that ... The reason that he went to the store is to get milk. That's not how you read it in the Gemara. It's always a different way. It's as follows. The reason for something that's in here and unstated is that he went to the store. Okay? The reason that he went to the store, okay, is to get milk. Get milk. Okay? Yeah?
Can you put in brackets or?
No, hold on. No, I'm just that statement in English. Okay? You might think that's what this means. The reason that he did something, the reason that he went to the store, is to get milk. That's not how the Gemara is using the word taima. The Gemara uses the word taima this way. The reason for something, I don't know what I'm looking for the reason for, is that he went to the store. Those are two completely different statements, right? The reason he went to the store is to get the milk. That's not what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying the reason for something, and it doesn't tell me what it is that he went to the store. So I'll fill in the blanks. The reason he saw John is that he went to the store. And guess who was at the store? John. The reason we have milk in the house is he went to the store. That's a completely different statement than the reason he went to the store is something else. No. In the Gemara, it's always the reason for something is, in this case, the Ovid Ke'ein V'Shilech. The reason that he's chayev. The reason that he's chayev is because it's as if he sent the animal actively into the field. Right? It's not that the reason that he sent the animal into the field. Okay, but the reason for X is, meaning this is the reason. This isn't what I'm giving a reason for, right? This is the reason for something else that's always unstated. So in between the taima and the dalid, which always shows afterwards, put brackets, ... Fill in that blank after you read the statement. Then you'll understand what the Gemara is saying. The reason for something is, and what he said is right, the reason he's chayev is because he didn't even do minimal guarding. It's as if he sent the animal into the field. Lord, behold, if he didn't do that, meaning he didn't act in such an improper way, look, it's not good. Okay? That's how you read a time always. And if you do it that way, it'll always work. If you read it this way, it'll never work. The reason that he went to the store is what? Because it'll never give, the Gemara's never going to give you the reason. Why? Well, it already did. This clause is the reason. So you're going to say the reason that he went to the store is what? Well, it's not there. Didn't tell me the reason. It already told you the reason. This is the reason for something else that it didn't tell you about. The reason that he saw John is that he went to the store. Okay? Always the same way. Always. Yes, if you're not careful, you'll read it the wrong way, and you just read it. What in the world is the saying? It just doesn't make any sense. But as soon as you read it this way, it always makes perfect sense. Right? You just have to fill in the blank. Now, always, what's in the blank is something we've already been talking about, right? It's not trying to fake us out. We've already been talking about something. So it'll say the reason for that which we've been talking about is okay? You get the difference between those two ways of reading the words, right? It's subtle, but it's very different. And just always remember going to the store. The reason he went to the store is to get milk. The Gemara is not saying that. The Gemara is saying the reason for something is that he went to the store. The reason for what? The reason he saw John. Oh shit. The reason. Depends what kind of milk he saw in the store. Right? Okay? You forgot that one, huh?
Yeah.
No, then you mess up. It's just you can't read the words.
Yesterday I was explaining it. I think I came to the same realization. I forget
okay.
the.
Okay, good. No, because you can't. It does. If you read this any other way, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Right? So let's read these words now. Taima, the reason for something, and what's that something? The reason that what? That he's chayev is da'avid ke'ein b'shilechu bir. That it's as if he actually sent the animal into the field and fed the animal from the other person's field. Not even minimal guarding, ha lo yavid. But if he didn't do that, if he wasn't so negligent,
So he's not chayev.
lo, he's not chayev. The reason yes is because of this. If that's not there, then no. What's the yes? He's chayiv. Okay. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, all of that, in all fairness, is an addendum that we don't need that information to understand what's going on. That information is there just to fill in our basic knowledge of how these drushes work and why we're saying shilach is what it is and why we're saying beer is what it is. Okay. All right? But bottom line, we already... it was pretty clear to us how the Gemara was learning that. Okay, but we brought this brisa to show clearly what that's all about. Okay, you went further?
Yeah. We went till the end.
Till the dots? Okay, let's go. So, at this point, where are we holding? What's going on in the Gemara right now? What have we just finished saying? Generally, you should be able to say this.
Just saying that with a minimal guarding, you could pattern regarding of Shannon and regular.
Therefore, what you're saying is true. Therefore,
If you have minimal guarding, then you're patur.
therefore.
No. I mean, Rabbi Meir could be the.
Thank you, Rabbi. We were really talking about who wrote the Mishnah, right? Everything we were saying was true, but what were we really interested in? Rabbi Meir could have written the Mishnah, right? Okay. So now, up until this point, let's go through it. I'm sorry, I'm right back here again. But this is important to do. Okay. Except I need more board. Should I get rid of this?
Yeah.
Is this okay to get rid of?
We are so proud of the postcard that they didn't erase. Now we can blame on them. You erase and blame on them.
Anything here. Here we go. Okay, now it's. Every time I came on the board, I was losing my making and I couldn't figure out now. Okay. We just erased part of our own life here. Okay. Let's just go through our Gemara up until we learned the Mishnah. What's the first thing that happened? Statement, question, answer, proof. Afterwards, you can all sit down. Stand up. We're not like saying Alatira or stand for your feet, right? Okay? So, oh, I'm getting taped on the joints. Right? What? Oh, yeah, let me do this for Ruben. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but whatever will do my best. Okay. We want to go through our sugya now, and you should do this with every sugya you learn. Shakla v'tari. Statement, question, answer, proof. We'll start right from the beginning. It's the first thing we did. Statement, question, answer, proof. First thing in our sugya, after the mission. When the Gemara started, was the first thing we did. We made a statement. What was the statement?
Oh, what the sages tell us what is fit and not.
Beautiful. Okay, the first thing was a statement. What is kara'ui? What's not? Right? True? First thing. Then what happened? No, that was a statement. No, we don't need an answer. after the
Another statement.
No.
Question.
Question. Beautiful. What's the question? Mani Barbat.
Who's the author?
Who's the author? Beautiful. Mani Bar Patish. You remember the name, okay? You might say, oh, Mani Bar Patish is not a very important guy. He's in this book, you're not. Okay? So he's a pretty important guy. Right? What did Rabbi Bar Patish ask?
Who's the author?
Who wrote our Mishnah? Which means really what? Minimal
Yeah.
guarding for muad, right? True? Who did that? Who wrote that? Now, we're saying that it's not a rhetorical question. We learned that it's just a question. Okay, then after a question, what comes next?
Answer.
What's the answer?
Rabbi.
Rabbi Yehuda. And then it brings the Mishnah, right? Rabbi Meir, I don't have to write them all down. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Eliezer, right? And what does Rabbi Yehuda say?
For
Right. And in the case of Muad, that was minimally guarded. If you tied up or locked up a Muad and it went out and did damage, what kind of damage are we talking about? What category? Karen. Right? Then you're what? In Tam you're Chayiv, but Muad you're what? Right? Yeah, so let's just put that under Rabbi Yehuda so we'll remember. Tam Chayiv, Muad, Pot. That was Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. That was our answer. What happened next?
We have another answer.
Oh, beautiful. It's another answer. Now we look at it this way, it's clear, it's another answer. Wait, you could also say that what? Who wrote our Mishnah? Rabbi Meir. No answer. This is answer 2 to this question. Right? It's Rabbi Meir. Right? Why? He says, let's put it this way. He was strict or lenient in Karen?
Strict.
Strict, it's that. He is strict in Karen, but lenient.
We should not say could be lenient because we don't know for sure. No?
Okay, right, fine. But lenient in Shane Beret. Right? And then we bring the Rabbi Elazar or Baraisa for Drashat, right? On what categories? Bor, Aish, Shane, Beret. Right? True? I can write that, that's enough. I know exactly what I'm saying. If I say that, I know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I don't have to write out 8 lines. True? Okay. Now that's where we are. We're up to there right now.
Now.
So now the next piece
Bara.
is going to be, I don't know, I mean, it could be a question, it could be a statement, it could be a proof, I don't know. It's going to use that word dika, which is usually a proof. Okay? So Rabbi is going to now say something in the context of that. That's our whole sugyas. Now you can write it out a lot more fully than that, but that's enough. If you wrote that out, you know exactly what you're talking about. And if you were to walk down the street saying that over to yourself, which you could, it's not a problem, it's very easy to remember those 4 steps. Instead of looking at the billboards, you could say that over and you'd remember that. You know, when you said this, you'd remember the whole, there's 4 drushes, there's a drush about this, and you'd probably remember the words Ka'ain, Rashila, you remember all that. But you don't have to remember all that to yourself. But every time you learn a sugya, do this. This is called shaklavataya, give and take. Or in modern terms that are after my time, it's a flow chart. Make a flow chart. It's just, when I grew up, flowing meant something else. Right? In the 60s, everybody was just flowing. Look where it got the world. Okay?
Well, what's chakra there?
What? Shaklavataya, give and take. You know, what you and I do in this class, we do shaklavataya. We learn the Gemara shaklavataya, just the give and take in the Gemara. We're not doing all the fancy footwork and conceptually what's going on. We're not doing that. We're just trying to figure out basic structure of what's going on. Once we know how to do that, that's like we talked about the marshal of the bicycle. Once we know how to do that, we're on the bike and I can ride the bike around. So once you can ride a bike around the parking lot without falling off, put on speeds, uphill, downhill, mountain paths, it doesn't take so long, right? Jump, without hands, right? What's the first thing you always do once you learn how to ride a bike? You start riding without hands, right? Hey, look at me, Mom. Okay. You can't ride without hands if you don't know how to ride it. First, figure out how to ride it. That's what we're doing. Just simple shaklavataya. Now, shaklavataya is not so simple, right? It's not so simple. And it's not... People do have this basic position, and I disagree with it vehemently, and there's a lot of people who do, that you have to make Gemara interesting. So you have to tell people about all the interesting questions that the Rishonim ask, and this disagreement, that. I don't know. I think you will agree with me. Just trying to figure it out is really interesting when you don't know how to do it yet. It's really interesting trying to figure out what it's saying. Just the basic shaklavataya is fascinating. Like, wait a minute, what are they trying to do right now? What do they want? Right? And if you don't know how to do it, it's fascinating, right? Even if you do know how to do it, it's fascinating. But all the more so if you're figuring out how to, right? Think of the look on that kid's eye the first time he rode around 150 meters on the bicycle without anybody holding on. Look at his face. Was he bored? He was so excited. Probably has a bigger smile on his face than any other time he'll ever ride a bicycle in his life, even though he's going to be doing more exciting things, right? Figuring out shot in the page of Gemara, wow, that was a blast. We got it, right? Beryl came up to me the other day and said, I just want you to know I'm having such a good time learning in Rabbi Kleinman's class. I want to thank you for teaching me how to do the basics so I can do what we're doing. It's so much fun. I thought that was very sweet of him. Right? I didn't teach him, he taught himself. I'm a Rabbi. Now, Rabbi uses a word that I should have made a bigger deal of in tutorial, but I didn't, because it's not a classic use of the word, but it's still pretty much what's going on. The word dika. Amarava, masnisa nami dika. Dika means learn it carefully and you'll come to a certain conclusion. Now, usually that means, and here I also think that's what it means it's a proof. One of the ways the Gemara introduces a proof is dika nami. Read it carefully, you'll also come to the same conclusion that you just said. In other words, I'll show that your conclusion is reasonable, read it carefully. So that seems to be what Rav is doing. Okay, so now if that's what Rav is doing, and let's learn that that is what Rav is doing. So this is now a proof, which is very rare, but here it is. Okay, so then what's he proving? Well, what was the last thing we said? That's very easy if you look at the board. What was the last thing we said? Regarding lots of information, but bottom line, the last function, what was it? An answer to the question who wrote the Mishnah, and the answer was Rabbi Meir. Now, again, what Tzvi said is true. We didn't say it's definitely Rabbi Meir. Say, Afilu Tamer, or you can even say it's Rabbi Meir. Could you? Yes. Is it? I don't know, but could you? Yes. You could even say it's Rabbi Meir. So now Rabbi is going to say, I'll prove to you that it's Rabbi Meir. Why? Okay, so he says something very interesting. Dika dektani tsoin, that it teaches what? Sheep. Michti. What does michti mean?
Let's see.
Let's see. Let's look into this. Hold on a second. Let's think about this. That's what michti literally means. Let's see. Let's look into it. B'shor kaskinan. What have we been talking about until now?
We're dealing with an ox.
Every case we've been talking about in all the Mishnahs for sure. Right? V'asi nisne shor. So come and teach shor. Where? In our Mishnah.
Yeah.
Why doesn't our Mishnah teach shor? Just like all the other Mishnahs that have been, right? I said to you guys, you don't have in your book, the previous page, shor shenagach esapara. 10 pages back. Shor shenagach arba v'chamish. Right? It's all shor. And even in the context of bor, Bershusa Rabim, we're talking about you walking along. Sometimes we talk about a camel, but also talking about your shore. You're walking along with your shore and your shore trips, and you don't pick them up. Okay, so your sheep trips, because you're probably not walking along a city street with a sheep, but you might be walking along a city street with a shore, with an ox, with a cow. Right? That's more common, right? First of all, you might have a burden on the cow, just like a donkey. Don't have that on a sheep, and also you might be taking the cow to be shechted, or taking the cow to get milk. Get milk is all right. The idea of watching someone walk down the street with a cow makes a lot more sense than someone walking down the street with a sheep. Right now, you just don't, right? A sheep, where are they? Out in the field, and there's 100 of them, right? That's how you see sheep. And goats, same. A cow? One cow, no problem. Okay. So talk about a cow. Why are we all of a sudden talking about a sheep? Now, we already talked about this. My shna the ktanit saying that what? What's the difference that he's talking about? So I mean, why did he go? Why is this Mishnah going out of its way to talk about soin? Lav. Now, usually lav. The next one we were learning that it doesn't, but usually lav means is it not, and that's exactly what it means here. Is it not mishum de hatara miyata b'shmiraton? Stop. Is it not that what? Why are we talking about soin in this Mishnah?
Torah teaches to limit safe.
Oh, that so therefore, what are we really talking about? We're talking about soin, and what aspect of damages are we talking about if we're talking about soin? Shein and regel. And what does the Torah do relative to shein and regel? Limits the need for their guarding, and therefore, why? Now you think about it again. What's he trying to show? He's trying to show what's Rabba's position? What does he want to show that is absolutely true? Rabbi Meir wrote the Mishnah. Why is the Mishnah talking about soin? In order to teach me the whole idea that shein and regel have limited guarding. Oh. And who would make a point of saying that? According to what Rabbi was thinking. Who would make a point of changing that? Rabbi Meir. Could Rabbi Meir learn shor in our Mishnah and teach me a halacha about shein and regel? And teach me a halacha about limiting shmira? Sorry. Could Rabbi Meir, think about this. Could the case in our Mishnah be shor and teach us about limited need for guarding, according to Rabbi Meir? Rabbi Meir doesn't hold that there's limited guarding relative to one aspect of shor, Karen, right? Oh, so why, according to Rabbi, why did the Mishnah go out of its way to learn soin, to teach me I'm not talking about Karen, I'm dafka talking about shein and regel, which is different than Karen. And what's unique about shein and regel? Limited guarding. Who's the only person that we know that could say what I just said? That shein and regel are different than Karen, they require limited guarding, whereas Karen requires maximum guarding. Who could say that? Rabbi Meir. Could Rabbi Yehuda say that? No, because he holds that Karen also requires only minimal guarding. Muad. Why? There's a drasha.
What do you think about Rabbi Eliezer at this point?
Irrelevant in our discussion. Because he said there's no such thing as guarding, at least in Karen. What he would say about this, that theoretically he could also write this 100%, but we're clearly more interested in the machlekes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. But you're right, I mean theoretically Rabbi Eliezer could also say this. Right? Okay. Manyan, no? Great shot. Why did we say tsoin? Why don't we just keep talking about shore? Oh, to dafka differentiate between Shane and Regal on one hand and Karen on the other. That's what Rabba's saying. That's why we taught tsoin. Because what doesn't really apply to tsoin in all things being equal? One word answer. Karen. Beautiful. You have to get used to using those words. In Bava Kama, you're going to be using those words all the time. Karen, Shane, Regal, Bor, Eish. 5 categories of Nezikin. Right? Okay. We're not talking about shor, which means we're not talking about Karen. We're talking about Shane and Regal. Oh. Why? Because Rabbi Meir has to say that, because Rabbi Meir couldn't write shor. Rabbi Meir wants to emphasize the difference between Shane and Regal on one hand and shor on the other, so and Karen on the other. So right. So that's what Rabbi says, which is great pshat in the Mishnah, right? I mean, it's really a good, and it's a dika, a careful reading of the words. Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden are we talking about a sheep? We've been talking about oxen all the way, and we assume whatever we talked about relative to oxen applied to everybody else, right? We're just talking about normal everyday reality. What do people have? Yeah, I mean, they have a cow, they have a sheep, they have a goat, they have whatever they want, whatever they have. Right? Some people have a lot of each. A lot of people, what do they have in their backyard? Well, probably not an ox. What do they have?
Cow.
A cow. They might have had an ox if they have a little bit of land because they need something to help them plow it, but they probably had a cow. Why'd they have a cow? Milk. A cow. That's where they got their milk, right? People had a cow in the backyard. Now they also might have a sheep in the backyard for the wool. I mean, people live that way, right? They also might have, interesting enough, had a dog in the backyard. Right? Even though dogs are not so much part of the frum community these days, but they might have had a dog just to protect the cow and the sheep, right? To make a racket if anybody shows up. Well, yes or no? Right? Okay. So that's Rabba. Now let's just see how the Gemara deals with this. So that's Rabba, and we'll put a P after that A. Rabba saying the reason the Mishnah uses tsoin is to distinguish between Shane and Regal on one hand and Karen on the other. Okay? Is that a reasonable statement to say, what I just said? Right? The Mishnah must be Rabbi Meir, Rabba says, in order to distinguish between Shane and Regal on one hand, that's tsoin, and Karen on the other, that's shor. Yeah? In shor, what's the halacha code in Rabbi Meir? Muad, minimal or maximal? Rabbi Meir. You should know like this. Rabbi Meir. Shor, muad. Rabbi Meir, maximum or minimum? Maximum. Shane and Regal, what could Rabbi Meir hold? Minimum. And that's what Rabbi's saying. He not only could, he does. That's why we switched to tzoyin and not shor. Because if Rabbi Yehuda wrote this Mishnah, you could talk about a shor going out and in the context you would probably know it's Shane and Regal, but you don't have to distinguish between Shane and Regal and Karen because minimal guarding is fine. You would then have, you might have tzvi's problem. Well, why is he even telling me this? But if it's Shane and Regal, I want to know. Okay. So now let's just see the last line, then we'll stop. And you guys, did I give you words further?
No.
Oh, wait. So
No, we have
Rabbi
to.
Tosh Mabin.
Yeah, sure.
yeah, no, Beseder, but I didn't give you further than that. Okay, Beseder. We have to get you out of here earlier. Beseder. No, the class is always longer in the beginning. But as it then starts getting shorter and shorter as you guys get better and better. Lav mishum, no. Let's learn it that way. No. Mishum da Torah miyata. You could also learn is it not because, but is it because the Torah miata b'shmirasan. I'm sorry. Lav mishum dekan Karen loik siva ba shein v'regel hu deksiv ba. It's because here Karen's not written, therefore we didn't write shor. Shane and Regal are that's written, therefore we wrote saying, Ukamash Malan, what are we learning? What information are we learning? Does this Mishnah teaching me that I want to know? It's not distinguishing between Shane and Regal on one hand and Karen on the other, such that it must be Rabbi Meir. What's this Mishnah coming to teach me? That Shane and Regal are muadin. That Shane and Regal are always a muad. Oh, okay. And what applies to them? Minimal guarding, beautiful. And who could have written the Mishnah? Oh, no, Beseder, but we just said that we're dismissing a proof that says it must be Rabbi Meir. So therefore, this line must show me that who else could have written the Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda. What's Rabbi Yehuda teaching me by writing this Mishnah this way? On Muad, and the laws that apply to Karen about minimal guarding also apply to Shane and Regal, which I wouldn't know from the first statement of Rabbi Yehuda, because there's a drasha relative to Karen, and who says I apply that drasha to Shane and Regal? Wait. Before we ask questions, let's understand, right? I'm going to say that again. If this line, this function is telling me Rabbi Yehuda could have written the Mishnah, so why is Rabbi Yehuda writing Sain? Rabbi Yehuda writes shiur all the time, right? He's interested in, no. Rabbi Yehuda also could explain why it's written Sain, to teach me that Shane and Regal are muad, because we don't make any distinction between tam and muad, and that minimal guarding is okay, just like minimal guarding is okay in what other case of muad, according to Rabbi Yehuda? No, that's what we're learning here. What's the other case? Just like, where did Rabbi Yehuda tell me minimal guarding is okay? Karen. Oh, what might I not know? It also applies to Shane and Regal. Why would I think it applies to Shane and Regal in Shitas Rabbi Yehuda? Because after all, why does Rabbi Yehuda say that minimal guarding is enough in Karen? Pasuk, beautiful, right? Okay, that's what you got to say. It's a pasuk. He has a drasha, right? Oh, who says that drasha applies to Shane and Regal? The drasha applies to Karen. There's no drasha in Shane. Who says he holds there's a drasha in Shane and Regal? Right? Okay, so therefore along comes Rabbi Yehuda and writes our Mishnah to teach us Shane and Regal are muad, just like Karen, and therefore minimal guarding. Beautiful. That's the Mishnah could be Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah.
Where does it fail Rabba's proof?
That the Rabba's proof was based on what?
It's trying to
Based on what? I know what he's trying to do. What was his proof based on?
Till now we were
One word. What was Rabba's proof? Right.
ox and
Ox and son. Bidiyuk. Okay, and that shows that this must be Rabbi Meir, because he's distinguishing between ox on one side, which is Karen, and Sain on the other, which is Shane and Regal. He's distinguishing Shane and Regal and Karen.
Yes.
Now that must be Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have to distinguish between the two necessarily. Okay. Oh. So now we're saying, no, that's not, I can show that that's not necessarily true. That doesn't mean it isn't true, but you haven't proven anything. Because I can show you that what? Rabbi Yehuda also has to use the word soin. Why? Not to teach me that they're different, but to teach me that they're the same. Right? The Chiddush in Rabbi Yehuda is it's the same as Karen. Right? The Chiddush in Rabbi Meir is different than Karen. Okay, can I prove to you that the reason we used Soin is because I want to distinguish between Soin and Shor, I want to distinguish between Shane and Regal and Karen, and therefore it must be Rabbi Meir? No. Is that a reasonable pshat? Yeah, sure. Must it be pshat? No. I could still say Rabbi Yehuda wrote the Mishnah. Why did Rabbi Yehuda write the Mishnah? To teach me that Shane and Regal are muad and also only require minimal guarding, just like Karen. Which I wouldn't know from that Bryce over there. I might think that's only relative to Karen, because there's a drasha. And along comes this Mishnah and says, also applies to Shane and Regal. Along comes Rabbi Yehuda and teaches me that which I said by Karen also applies to Shane and Regal, don't worry. Why? Why might Rabbi Yehuda think it also applies to Shane and Regal? Because he holds by all these drushes, right? He doesn't have to not hold by these drushes. Is he learning Shein and Regel from his drusha Lo Yishmoenu Ba'alav? No, hard to say. Because that's talking about Karen. That's not talking about anything else. Okay. But he could learn these drushes. And that's what he's coming to teach you. I also hold it. It's a muad and it's minimal guard. Okay. I'll write those up on the board tomorrow. Those two. Okay, let me give you words quickly. It's late. Tanya. Short little sugya. Amar Rabbi Yeshua. Atana. It's a brayso. Arba devarim. There are four things. Ha'oisir son, the one who does them. Pater midinei adam. He's exempt from human law. Now, when we say midinei, it means based in can't obligate him for anything. V'chai b'dinei shemayim. But he's obligated in heavenly law. But what he did is problematic. I can't obligate him to pay for it, but God's not happy.
Because you don't know what it is, or because...
Let's see what the cases are. We don't know. Let's see what the cases are. Ve'eluhen, what are they? Haperetz geder, the one who breaks a fence, bifnei behemoth chavere, in front of the behemoth of his friend. That's case one. He broke a fence in front of the behemoth of his fellow. That's case one. Is an animal. An animal. A domesticated animal. And hakefef, he bends over kamasai, the standing wheat shel chavere, of his friend, bifnei hadleika, in front of the fire. And hasecher eidei sheker, the one who hires false witnesses, pays them. Laha'id, to testify. Socher, rents, literally, but he hires. He hires false witnesses to testify. He pays someone to testify. One who knows testimony for his friend, but he doesn't testify for him. Those are the four cases. Now, you don't have to understand those four cases. The Gemara is going to discuss them all. Amar Mar, haparetz geder bifnei behemoth kaved, heichi dami. Hey dalet is heichi, hey yud chaf yud, dami. Daled mem yud, which means what's it like, which means what's the case. Heichidami. Literally in our language means what's the case. Fill out the case. What happened? Ilema. An ilema literally means if you will say. But what's an ilema?
It's going to get shut down.
Be a fact. It's an answer the Gemara won't accept. So every ilema will have three parts. The answer, the question on the answer, and then the new answer. Okay? Ilema, if you're going to say A, I'll show you that A doesn't work. Rather, B. Okay? Ilema, if you're going to say B'kaisel body in a healthy wall.
Healthy wall?
Wall. Kotel. You've heard of the kotel? What? Never gone to the kotel? B'dinei Adam, in the laws of people, Nami also nechayev, he should be obligated. Meaning a human court. And when we say obligated in human court, that means he has to pay. Elo, rather, b'kaisel re'ua, in a bad wall, meaning a wall that ultimately is to be destroyed. Okay? Now, it happens to be that it's important, it's probably important to know that if a person has a really bad wall, people have walls, right? I mean, they're next to their property, and that property bordered on the public domain. And if someone had a wall that was a dangerous wall, so then the authorities, based in were the authorities, would would force them to break the wall and build a good one, right? Because it's a dangerous wall. It's going to start falling on people, and that means rocks are going to start falling into the Rishus Harabim and hitting cows and hitting people. And okay, so that's a Kesel Re'ua. Okay. Amar Mar. Amar Mar is just introducing a statement from a Baraisa that we've already quoted, and we're going to start discussing it. We've already said that. Hakayfeif kamaso shel chavere bifnei adleika heichidami. Here it's written out. And heichidami means in our language, what's the case? Ilema dematya le beruach metsuya. Ilema, if you're going to say dematya le, it will reach it. It will arrive at it, but reach it. Beruach metsuya in a normal wind. B'dinei Adam nami nechayev. Not to translate those words. Ella, rather. Now we say the word Ella after a question when we accept the question, and we're going to give a different explanation. Ella. Rather. Okay, what does it mean though? Technically, what does Ella mean?
This is the right answer.
Right, meaning I'm not answering the question you just asked. I'm accepting the question you just asked, and I'm giving a new understanding. Right? Okay, that's an Ella. So not always in an ilema there's an Ella. There's the answer, the question, and then the word Ella. Rather, I'm accepting the answer and I'm giving a different answer. Because that's ilema. Ella dematya baruch she'ena matsuya. That it reached it with a ruach she'ena matsuya. V'Rav Ashi Amar, I'm going to have to explain a lot here in Rav Ashi, okay? Rav Ashi Amar tamun itmar. We're talking about tamun. Tamun means hidden. Mishum de Shavya, because he equated it, he made it tamun, hidden be'esh, relative to fire. Now, 2 dots, which means big time stop. Okay, what does tamun be'esh mean? Give you a lot of background halachic information and then see if you can figure out what Rav Ashi is saying. Reuven comes into Shimon's yard and sets fire to his pile of hay. Okay. Hidden in the pile of hay was a Mercedes-Benz. But it was hidden from view. Reuven only pays for a pile of hay. Now, he's going to have to pay for a pile of hay the size of which he burnt down, even though much of it wasn't hay, right? He didn't really burn, let's say a bushel of hay would be that big a pile. But it's not a bushel of hay because the Mercedes is taking up room in there. Okay, but he didn't see the Mercedes. He's putter of the Mercedes. In Aish, you're putter on what's hidden from you if you set the fire. Okay? Don't ask why. We're not interested in the whys. We're interested in what the halacha is. Okay? If
But I'm
something.
curious as to what that extends to. Like, does that extend to a house that you can't see inside? So if you set fire to a house, you're liable for the house, but not necessarily for it.
Okay, good question. No, but again, the things that are inside you can see if you just walk around the house, whereas you don't walk around in the haystack, right? I mean, when we talk hidden, we mean something that is hidden from view from, most normal people in normal circumstances. Okay, so that means covering something up so that it can't be seen would be considered tamun be'esh. Okay, if I covered something. Right? So then, if it was burnt down, the person who burnt it would be putter because it was covered up. I covered up something with a sheet. No one can see it. So he doesn't know what he's burning. Okay? It's all based on drushes in Aish, okay? But that's a halacha in Aish. That's very interesting. It's a machlekes, whether you're chayav or not in Talmud. But Rav Ashi is saying we're talking about a case of tamun be'esh. So you have to figure out what that means in the context of the statement in our Baraisa of Rabbi Yeshua. Okay? But tamun be'esh. That's what Rav Ashi says the case is. Again, something covered up, you're putter for. Now we don't know all of the different laws of what that means to cover, but okay, we know enough to be able to figure out what Rav Ashi is saying. A little further. Amar Mar, Hasecher Eidei Sheker, the one who hired the false witnesses. Heichidami, what's the case? Ilema Lanafshe, if you're going to say for himself, Lanafshe, for himself. Mamoina boy shlemi. He has to pay money. Money he is required to pay. Ubedine adam, and in dine adam nami nichayev, and in our courts he'd also be obligated. Elo rather lechavre, to his friend, for his friend. Stop. Va'ayerdeya edus lechavere eino meidle. He knows testimony for his friend, but he doesn't testify. But Maya skinan. Interesting. It doesn't say hechidali. But Maya skinan. Same thing though. In what are we dealing? In what's the case? Ilema, if you're going to say betray a house of two, meaning he's one of two witnesses. Pshita, it's obvious. Deraisahu, it's a law in the Torah. And you'll look up that pasuk in V'yikra Hey, Im lo yagid v'nasa avena. I don't have to translate it, right? Because you're going to look up the pasuk.
What was the
V'yikra Hey. Deraita means it's from the Torah. Din deraisa, right? A din deraisa, a din from the Torah, a din derabanan, a din from the rabbis. Pshita, it's obvious. It's a Torah law. And then we quote the pasuk that tells me it's a Torah law. You have to look up the Torah and see what the Torah law is. V'yikra Hey, 5th chapter in Leviticus. Elo bechad, but rather with one, meaning he's a one witness. Stop. Now, one witness. A few laws of one witness. One witness can't. Reuven claims that Shimon owes him money. Right? Reuven brings a witness. If he has two witnesses that Shimon owes him money, so then Shimon owes him money. He only has one witness. Shimon doesn't owe money because one witness isn't enough. We need two. But what? But Shimon is obligated by virtue of the testimony of that one witness to take an oath that he doesn't owe the money. Okay? The burden of proof switches over to Shimon. Once Reuven brings one witness that says that Shimon owes him money, now the burden of proof shifts to Shimon, and Shimon has to take an oath that he doesn't owe the money. Right? Okay?
Wait, who does what there?
Reuven and Shimon. Reuven says Shimon owes him $100.
Okay.
Shimon says no. Reuven brings two witnesses that Shimon owes him $100. Take $100 out of your wallet and give it to Reuven, Shimon. You're toast. You lose. Okay. Second case. No witnesses. Reuven has to prove it. I can go up to you owe me $100. Prove you don't. What do you mean prove I don't? You prove that I do. I don't have to prove anything. Okay, fine. What if I walk up to Tzvi with one witness? Amnon says, yes, Tzvi took $100 from me. I saw it. And I know he didn't pay me back. He didn't pay me back. He told me yesterday he didn't pay me back. Okay, so what's the law? Do I get my $100? No, I do not get my $100. But Tzvi has to take an oath that he doesn't owe me $100. Because Amnon was a one witness saying that Tzvi owes me $100. That one witness won't be enough to transfer the money from Tzvi to me, but it will be enough to obligate Tzvi to bring proof now that he doesn't owe me. Before there was anybody there, I had to prove that he does. Now the burden of proof is switched to Tzvi by virtue of this one witness, and he has to take an oath that he doesn't owe me money. Now he can take an oath and say, I don't owe you money, and then he wins. But now he has to prove that by taking an oath. Yeah? If he doesn't owe me money, he'll take the oath and he wins.
Bring back two other witnesses.
You could bring two witnesses that you don't. Okay, fine. You can do whatever you want, right? But what does my one aid do? Switches the burden of proof to you now. You have to take an oath. And if you won't take the oath, you have to pay me. If you say in Basin, no, I don't want to take an oath. So they'll say, okay, so pay him $100. Mm-hmm. And you might do that, not because you don't think that not that you don't think that you're not telling the truth, but you're just not interested in taking an oath. For $100, you're not going to. This is too scary. Right? If it's more than that, you might say, okay, but $100, take your $100 and leave me alone. Okay. Fine.
Not sweet. Then we continue.
I go home with 300.
Okay. Vesuleka. Let's do a couple and then we'll stop. Oh, it's late. Vesuleka. And more there are not. V'ha'ika, behold, there is. Now, this simon just is a way of remembering, a mnemonic device to remember the cases that are about to come. So don't worry about it. Behold, there is ha'oise malacha, someone who does work, v'mei chatas, with the water that was used to sprinkle on someone who was tamei mace. So he used to sprinkle water on them. So that was called mei chatas. So that water wasn't allowed to have any work done with it. And if work was done with it, it was rendered unfit to be used to help someone become tahor, pure, after becoming tamei. Ubeparas chatas, and in the red heifer, right? If you worked the red heifer, so it was no longer allowed to be used for the.
We don't deal with the brackets. Or you don't even have.
No, I said what the brackets were.
Yeah.
I said that they're a mnemonic device to tell me about the next 5 or 6 things we're going to see, but we're not paying.
What was the water that was used?
If someone was tamei mace, so there was water sprinkled on them that had the ashes of the red heifer in it, and there was the red heifer itself. Okay, so if any work was done with any of that, it renders it pasul, renders it unfit. Okay.
Chatat was.
Chatat is the parat chatat is the red heifer, the cow that is burnt, and the ashes are used, sprinkled in water and sprinkled on a person who has come in contact with a dead person. That person then becomes tamei. He does that on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, and on the 8th day he's tar. Now we don't have that today. Okay, so just one piece of information that's very, very interesting in the laws of damages. Nezik that can't be seen, damage that can't be seen, it's metaphysical, not physical. Person's putter for causing that damage in terms of law, in terms of the financial damage that they caused, they're putter. Right? Okay? Law, damage that can't be seen, meaning it's metaphysical, not physical. Okay? What did you do to this meichatas? You made it unfit. How much meichatas was there before you showed up? A quart. How much is there now? A quart. Did you damage it? No. In physicality, did you do anything to it? No. What did you do to it? Metaphysical. I made it unfit to be used for what it's supposed to be used for its religious purposes. That's damage that can't be seen. Oh, for that damage, you're putter in basted. You're not obligated for that damage. Okay? Metaphysical, not physical. Interesting. There is such a thing called metaphysical damage. Take the paras chatas. You take this red heifer. The Jewish people, in waiting for this red heifer since it was born, waiting for it to be used to make everybody tahor, and a week before it's about to be used, some nudnik takes it out and plows his field with it. He's wrecked everything for the whole Jewish people. He just took this para that if you were to buy it or sell it, it would be worth millions of dollars, right? I mean, it would be worth a fortune if you owned this thing and you wanted to sell it to Beis Din. You could name your price. The Beis Hamikdash will buy it. Not now. It's made it worthless. Can you see anything there? Hmm? Why is it worthless? Metaphysical damage, not physical. Putter and Beis Din. Halacha about damage. Damage has to be able to be seen. Okay. Fascinating. Halacha. Okay. Potter medinei adam v'chai b'dinei shamayim. V'ha'ika, behold, there is hanoisen sam hamavis, someone who put a potion of death. You and I call that poison. Bifnei behemis chavere, in front of the behema of his friend.
Poison?
Poison. Put poison in front of his friend's cow. Potter midinei adam v'chai b'dinei shamayim. He's exempt from the laws of Beis Din, but he's obligated, meaning God's not happy. Va'ika, behold, there is. Hashaleach esa be'era, he sends a fire. Hashaleach, right, to send, like a shaliach. Esa be'era, we saw that, mavir, fire. So like a torch. He gives a torch, bidei, in the hands of a cheresh sheitiv v'katan, someone who's not of sound mind. Potter midinei adam v'chai b'dinei shamayim. He's exempt in human law, but obligated in heavenly law. Vayika, there is hamavis es chavere. This is an interesting case. Rashi's explanation of the case is that you make some very loud noise next to the person and scare the living daylights out of them, right? Now, whether there's physical damage or not is an interesting question. Let's stay out of that.
Hamavit is scary.
Mavit is to make a Rashi says makes a very loud noise, like taking a shofar and blowing it right next to someone's ear. Now you might have some damage might have arisen as a result of that. Pater midinei adam v'chai b'dinei shemayim. Va'ika, behold, there is nishbara kadei b'rshus harabim. His pitcher like pitcher of water, kad, broke in b'rshus harabim, in the public domain. Okay, b'rshut harabim. You see that in there? V'loi salka, and he didn't remove it. V'nofla gemaloi, and his donkey fell. V'loi hamido, and he didn't, what?
His camel.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Nofla gemaloi, his camel fell. V'loi hamida, and he didn't pick it up. Rabbi Meir mechayiv behezekan. Rabbi Meir obligates you in the damage that they do. V'chachamim eimrim, but the chachamim say, pater b'dinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shemayim. Stop. Okay, I'm going to read two more lines. We're not going to go past that, even though it hasn't stopped, but we're just going to see what happens. Yes. Mia ika tuva, there are a lot. Ika, there is, tuva, a lot. Vahani, and these, itzrichale, are necessary to teach. Sarich. Itzrichale, they're necessary. Now, when I say something is necessary to teach, that means if I didn't teach it, I might come to a wrong conclusion regarding it. Okay, that's what it always means. Mahu detema, what might you have said? And when we say that, what might you have said, that means what might you have said if I didn't teach it? What mistake might you have made? Mahu detema, bedinei shemayim nami loy lechayev. Maybe in the laws of heaven also they would not be obligated. Kamash Malan, it comes to tell me the opposite. It comes to tell me, no, that in Dinei Shemayim they are obligated, but in Dinei Adam they aren't. Okay, stop. Now that's the words, you have to figure that out. Okay, so the first thing you're going to deal with is the four cases that Rabbi Yeshua talks about. Just get basic pshat in them. You don't have to explain them all, because you see the Gemara is going to explain them all. You just have to get basic pshat in what's happening. Then the Gemara is going to explain each of those cases. Okay. We will definitely try to get out of this room by 12 o'clock latest every day. Okay, that's the idea.
Thank you.